Hello, welcome back to 3D Drawing from Model Railway. In today's episode I was going to start working on the bogey area, but whilst I was looking at doing a bit of research for the episode, I started to look at some of the pictures. And something just didn't look right here. This gap looked too big. And I'm comparing it with the photos here. If you look at this picture, you can see how the bogey pretty much goes from the end of the buffer beam here to where the well is. So I started to do a bit more research, and I was speaking to a mate, and he actually found a bit of information that said that the well length, so from this point here where the well starts on each side, on the original wagon was 40 feet. Now if we look at the measurement we've got along this bottom edge, we've got 60 millimeters, which in N-gauge works out at roughly 30 feet. So we can see the well's actually 10 feet too short. And what we actually think is the canvas here is actually wrong as well. These bogies would be sitting further out, both ends, and the well would actually come across slightly, which then leads into obviously things like the two cradles here, why they look in the wrong position slightly. So if you were to move these across 5 mil on each end, you'd probably have these wells in pretty much the right place. So today's episode is really going to be looking at how we can go back in the history to try and change this and fix this to make it look better and work better, and hopefully then we'll then have to put the bogies in the right place. Hopefully then everything will just come together much better. So hopefully you don't get too upset if you have to go back in the history and change things, but it will give you a good idea of some of the errors that you can throw up when you start changing one thing, how it can cause issues with other things, and also gives a good idea of how to just generally work through things when you get test prints like this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in the history to where we started to draw the well, and then we can work forwards from there. So if we come down to the history at the bottom here, all we're going to do is just sort of roll back the history using the right mouse button, click roll history marker here, and I've just selected somewhere to come back to see where that puts us. Okay, so the first thing we're probably going to see is this actually will need to be longer and further across. Okay, so if we just look at this part that I've come to, luckily I've just come onto the bit on the end here. So at the moment I don't actually know where I want this to finish, but I think it's probably going to need to be about another 5 mil probably to the left. So I'm going to come back even further in the history to this sketch here, which is the original sketch for the beam here. I'm just going to add another 5 mil to there. 49.5. Okay, you see how that's just moved that along, and then we can click on OK. And then if we come forward in the history, that will then extend this across to where we want it being 5 mil further across. If we come across in the history again, you can see how that's moved the fillet off the end to the correct position, so we're happy with that. We're just going to keep working through here until we find bits that we need changing. Okay, so this next bit is the base of the well. We see how it's lined up, so we're going to just have a look at that and see what we can change here. So we've got that at 30.2, so I'm just going to add 5 mil onto that. Change that figure to 35.2, and okay, that's extended that across. Again, we can just work through the history, looking for the next thing. So the next thing is this upright here, so I'm going to be happy with where that is because we know that's in the centre there. Moving along, that's mirrored across, that's fine, and then it's patterned. So the pattern we can see hasn't gone all the way to the end, so we're going to have to change that, edit that feature. I'm just going to drag that all the way to the end here. It needs to come back a tiny little bit. So there, 34.9, that's the sort of neat end here. And click on OK. Okay, so now I've got the correct number of beam uprights, and then we just move through the history. So we've got the diagonals here. You can see how that's now fitted correctly because we have how we sketched it with the constraints. That now works okay. And the second one doesn't, so that's the pattern we need to move over slightly. Just going to drag that over, so let's come across another 2 millimeters. Click on OK, and then we'll have the same issue with the next two patterns there. We just edit those. one of them. Let's just check something there. One of them, no, that's fine. So move that across 2mm. Click on OK. Again, just working your way through. That combines them all. That's fine. That extrusion took the end off. Okay, so we've got an issue here. So let's have a look at what this does. So if we look at this sketch here, we can see how that constraint is completely wrong. So this is the one that's the issue here. Let's remove that dimension and we can drag this across. Okay, so we want to constrain this line here. So we want that to be parallel to that line there, and then that will constrain those all up correctly. Finish the sketch and we now got that angled correct. So that's going onto the buffer beam here. It shouldn't be an issue, so we should be able to just skip through the buffer. So that's now doing these bits underneath. We can see they're constrained to the end, the correct length, so I'm happy with those. Okay, so now we've got to check to make sure that these are in the correct position. You can see that they're not underneath because these were supposed to be in line with each of the uprights. Edit that feature and we're just going to move this across. Look correct. Yes, so that's moved across now to minus 28mm. So we've got these in line with each of these. And then that last one, move the end one, that's correct. And then it should combine the rest of them. Yep. That's the end here. That's correct, that's all fine. So let's copy the body, that's fine. And then we move it across. I'm just going to turn the visibility off of that other body. The well in the middle is fine. Okay, so you see now how the constraints are actually helping us because we're not actually moving this well, it's automatically moved it itself. So these two are now in the correct position there. Okay, so this, let's go back here. Is that going to be correct position there? These look like they're now too far apart, so let's have a look at the constraints we have on this. Look at that one. Yeah, so we've got the constraint in the wrong place, or distance in the wrong place here. So we're going to remove that dimension there, and I'm actually going to dimension from the inside to, well, it doesn't matter which end actually, I'm going to go to the edge of the well there. Okay, and that's 5.7, which we can see is not going to work, so let's maybe move that to say 6.5. Okay, so that maybe needs to come a little bit more than that, so maybe let's go 7. See how that lines, that's lined up better there now. So now that's jumped back to where we were, and you can see everything looks like it's the right sort of size again now. So again, we're just going to continue to work through these. So that was the split, and then moving these down to this position here. So now we're going to have to look at where do we actually want this to be lined up with. So if we start looking at these pictures, you can see how the position of the cradle looks like it's in line with the the second beam across. So we can actually probably need to move that to here. So if we edit that feature, I'm just going to move that cradle across. And I'm going to have it so the middle of the cradle looks like it's in line with the middle of the beam, so it's just moving now to the left another 4 millimeters. Again, that's all cradle position. That's mirrored across. I'm actually thinking I can move that cradle slightly. It has. I'm going to remove that feature. Yeah. Okay, so I'm happy with where it is there now. That should have combined those into this body. So now we're looking at these pipes. We've got to try and work out, are these now going to be in the correct position? So if we just edit that sketch, we can see that we've constrained that to the edge of the well, which is where it's supposed to be on the pictures. So that's actually fixed that okay being. Sorry, let me get more words out. It's showing how the constraints actually help you there when you go back to make changes, because we're constrained to the correct positions and it's moving it to where we need it to be, or we've made this alteration on the sizes. Okay, so now we've got these here. Let's have a look at its position. So we can see it's just to the left of that centre upright there on the handrail, which pretty much is where it's at. If we just check the constraint on that. So we did distance from the edge of the well. So yeah, we're going to leave that the same, because that centre well hasn't moved. So move that across. So now what we're working on next. So the next one was the centre of the bogey pivot here. So I'm going to move this outwards by 5 millimeters. So I'm going to change, as it was 17, so I'm going to move it to 12.9. So it's back in line with the end of these. And that mirror would put that on the other end as well. Again, moving through these, we've got a copy of a body here, so that's copied that over. Okay, so now we're looking at this pipe here going to the end. That should be fine because we're going constrained from the end of the well to the end of the body. That upright, let's just check to make sure we've got that in the correct position. The one wagon to look at. This is the one we're on. So it's upright here is roughly at the end of the, yep, it's constrained in the right position as well. And then let's put those two on the end. Good. Copied it to the other side. And then mirrored the wagon across. Okay, so that, let's go back there. That point there, that wagon is now pretty much complete. I'm happy with that one. We've fixed that to where we should be. So now we're looking at moving into this wagon here. Roll through the history. So now we're looking at these end beams here. So you see how, again, the constraints have matched that to where it should be at the end of the cutout there. And then these on top should be all fine. That's correct position. Let's check this bit here just to make sure that we've got the correct gap on that. So let's roll through these to the picture above. The wagon's got cut out. So this is ending hole at where the diagonal upright comes in. So yeah, then probably needs to move that slightly. So if we just edit that sketch. Come back over here. So I'm just going to change this length here. If it'll let me. Let's select that length. Could be because of that one there. So if I move that. So what's happening there? So this point here needs to be constrained to there. For some reason it's not. I'm just going to remove that angle off there, and then we can drag this in slightly. There we go. That's better. Okay, so where do we actually want that? Roughly in line with that diagonal. So we're going to about 5 millimeters by the looks of it. Yeah. Okay. And then let's redefine that angle back in there. So it's going at 60. So we're going to go change that to. Oops, didn't want that to happen. So we'll leave it at 68 then, if that's going to change that. And then finish that sketch. So let's look at this now. Why have we got that plate there? Should it cover more? No, it shouldn't. That's correct. Yeah. Right, okay, here we go. So here's the first issue. So this history marker doesn't like it. So let's have a look at that. Edit the sketch. Okay, so this point here should be constrained to there. So let's have a look at the warnings. Compute failed. Good. Okay. Can we? No, we're going to have to edit the sketch. So we're going to move a whole lot across. This could well be a pain. See if we can get that constrained to that point there. No, it won't. So it's already constrained to something. What are those lines going down to here? Where have they gone? Okay, let's zoom back in. They're probably what's causing the issue. So we're going to delete that constraint there. Turn the canvas off so we can actually see this. Okay, what's changed there? I've got something moved. So if we delete that to start with, that's then caused that to jump over. It's not what we want. With the dimension from there to there. That's 3. Okay, so that's not right. I don't want that. Let's delete that dimension. Delete that one. radius is fine. Because we need to be in 3D sketch, let's change that. I don't want that, let's undo that. Let's find the correct wagon. So this is all we're looking at. So that is supposed to be constrained. This beam here is supposed to be constrained to here. So that, we need that to be in line with that, which it won't do for some reason. We might just have to redraw this. It might be the easiest way if this is going to continue to play up. So that's trying, that should be constrained to that point there. Yeah, so what I think I'm going to do is delete this drawing and start again. So we're going to have an upright from the edge of the well up 6 centimeters, and then it needs to be vertically constrained to that point there, and then it needs to be constrained to that point there. Project that point, and then we can coincidence to that point there. Why are you doing that? That point should be coincidence to that point there. Okay, not doing it. Okay, let's just undo those. Let's try drawing that line again. First we'll project that point to start with, which it doesn't seem to do for some reason. We'll draw that on the bottom plane there. Okay, so it's not going to draw that, so let's look at the length of that, 7.28. So if we redraw that line on that plane, and we go 7.28 in length, we know it's going to go to the middle. Why is that drawn on the bottom surface there? Line from that point on that surface. Yes, it's floating. Okay, so let's put some radiuses in here. That was 1 millimeter. This one was 1 millimeter. sketch that pipe, edit that feature. So missing the paths. So we've got to come back to the sketches, turn that back on, and the path would be that one there. Click on OK. We're going to have the same issue here because trying to pipe the one that's not there. So again, edit feature, sketch verify, and be that pipe there. And turn that sketch back off. Okay, let's continue to work through these. Okay, so that pipe. Actually, we might need to move this in slightly to get in line with that. We can try. What we can do, redefine that sketch plane. That's 0. That pipe's overhanging, which is what I was concerned about. So I'm just going to go back in this sketch here. I'm just going to change that. So I'm going to take the dimension off of there. I'm going to change that to 5.3. See, that's moved that back in. So I'll redefine this plane, putting it back to 0.6. And that pipe's now correct. Okay, so again, continue to work through. The mirror, it doesn't like the mirror for some reason. Let's just go back. Let's see what's not to like about that. So scroll back up to turn these sketches off. Okay, so it's maybe not the mirror it doesn't like. Has it turned the body off? Yes. Okay, so that's back on, that's fine. That's combined them. Okay, what's that extrusion for? Okay, that's those plates. Mirrored the body across sideways, that's good. Okay, that's something on here. That's the plate here, that's fine. And the one on the end, that again they look fine. And then that should mirror the feature across to there, yep, good. That's the corner piece, good. And that's mirrored, yep. Okay, so now we've got an issue with this. So that needs to be redefined. So manage lost projections. So what we got issues here. So this needs to be in the corner. Okay, so we're going to do actually, does that pipe might need to move? Let's have a quick look on the sketch. Yes, it does, because that pipe should be right on the corner here. So sorry about this, going to have to go back in the history. Out of the sketch. Edit that sketch. I'm going to change the position of this. Zero. That's right in the corner on that arc there. Okay, so again, I'm going to have to go back into here now to fix this part. So manage the sketch projections. relink that to, I have to project that to start with. Manage lost projections. That should be that base there. Relink to that if I can get hold of it. Right, okay, so let's manage lost projections. Let's select that. Break link. And then break link on that one. We want to, for instance, that point to that point there. Move for me. Okay, so that's moved that line. Let's delete some of these bits. So we want to get rid of that, that line there. No idea what all these circle lines are. Delete them. Delete that line there, and then we'll just fill this in here to there, that to there, and then we can coincidence that point to that point there. Okay, so let's have a look here. Why is that not right? That needs to be another millimetre over. Let's redefine it. Edit sketch. So yeah, that's got to be there to fix that. That's now curved round in the right place. Sorry if it looks a little bit muddled and messy, but you can see how you just got to work through your errors trying to fix all these bits as you go along. So this one here we've just done. Rotate that back around so we look at the same side. That mirror it across to there. And then mirror it across. That looks fine. What did we just remove there? That body, we didn't use that good. Okay, so we now copy, we've got an extra body here. Where is it? There, and then we moved it to here. Good. And we start breaking things up and remove everything that was not needed because we changed this to a 2-cradle body. Okay, so here we may have an issue here, do we? Yeah, what's going on there? Let's just roll that back a little bit in history. Okay, so this extrusion here, if we edit that one, that needs to go out all the way on both sides. Fill up the holes. That's it. Okay. Now we're drilling the wells for the 2 cradles. That's better. So let's just check those wells are in the correct position. So we need to find a picture of the 2 cradle looking from above if possible. So the cradle starts after the second upright and halfway between the 4th and the 5th. So it actually needs to move across. So let's have a quick look in here. Edit the sketch. going to need to be an extra 5mm on there, so that is 17.5. That's better. Does it go to the correct position? Okay, so they've both moved in. Eek, that doesn't look right. Why is the whole body moved? I think that is moving the wrong part. Yeah, clearly, because when we've split this, these should still be separate. That's what it is. That's combined. Edit that feature. Let's just do that as new body. We'll ignore that for the moment. That move then moves this cradle into the right position. So that's naturally going to need to move a little bit more. Probably 2.5mm. And then move that across to there, that's it. Okay, so then we've got the combine. And that combine, we edit that, shouldn't have that. So if we remove all that, it should just be combining the 4 cradles. So that cradle, that one, that one. Okay, so continue to move across. Move here, so that's supposed to move those. Where do they need to be? And the answer is in the middle of the wagon. Yep, in line with the centre beam here. Edit that. I'm just going to drag that across a little bit more. Another millimetre. That puts it in line there. Okay, and then the combine. And redo that. Edit that feature, and we should be combining not this part here. So we should be combining the main body. That part and that part. all these bits before we combine those. Might have to come back and fix these combines in a minute. Look at these pipes. So the pipes for the centre one here. To be either side of that centre marking. So again, edit the sketch. So look at the length of the piece here is 19.8. Pretty much central all the way across. So that's 19.8. That's going to want to be just over 6. So change that to 19.8 there. Divide by 3 times by 1. That's right. And then that should be 6.6 as well. That's not seem to be right. Right. Should be 2. That's not right. No. Because that puts it pretty much in the middle. Just change that to 7. That's 7. And if we look at the distance from inspect from that point to that point, 6.8. That distance doesn't look right here either. Do some checking on that. There to there, 9.93. There to there, 9.97. So that's close enough. Ah, that's it. We want to have the measurement from there to there, 21.8, and then that should be, let's undo those, that should be 21.8. Try that again, not 121, 21.8, and then that one should be equal to, okay, 7.27. That makes it right there. Okay, much happier with that. Let's just turn off those two, so I'm looking at them. That moves across. Okay, that's combining, so that's edit feature, that should main body 37. So combine that main body with that pipe. This isn't correct. So you can see where our issue is here. This should have been splitting. So what we can do is edit the feature. Just going to drag that back inside there. Okay, and that should then move that. See how it's done that? Copy to the other side, and then it's just extrude to the other side. That probably needs to move further along if we check that. Yes, it does. So let's go back into here, edit that feature. I'm just going to drag that back by 2.5 millimeters. And then we have to edit these two extrusions and add another 2.5, so that's going to be 9. Same on that one. 9 on that one. That moves to the other end, and then we combine those to the main body. So target body is going to be the main body, and then adding in those two handrail sets. Okay, and then we just have to combine the main body with all of this lot. Okay, and then that's completed. Okay, so now we've got to where we should be, that when I do the next episode, the bogies will fit in the correct position. Everything's now the correct length on the well, and all of the handrails and things are correct. So hopefully you've been able to follow along and you've understood how we've gone through the process at the bottom, fixing all the history, changing everything we need to. If you get any issues or you've got any questions, please send me a message. I'm more than happy to help. Thanks for watching.